glad we talked about it because people should know about this journey.
I got it for 8,000 rupees. I used it for few months and then I understood, what I want. I got some ideas.
You were really smart at the beginning.
Phone photography made me a better photographer.
Because there shouldn't be this stopping point that once I'll have a camera, then only I can capture photos.
The first reel I have posted, I think the same day Instagram released the feature.
How do you look at this thing of, as a creator working with a brand, what's your approach with post-processing? So you were saving for 5 years for this camera.
First camera.
So, but when did this thought come of saving for camera?
So that's when I got my first collaboration email. Initially, I thought it was a scam. It was from the smartphone brand Xiaomi.
Oh.
And it's my first time, sharing screen with someone.
तो वेलकम टू अनदर पॉडकास्ट. और नॉर्मली हमारी वीडियोस हिंदी में रहती हैं बट ये एक्सेप्शन है फर्स्ट टाइम. सो वी हैव आशिक विद अस and first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
And he's traveled all the way from Kerala. We'll talk about it, where you're going, what it's all about. So the podcast would be in English, just an exception, and we might be doing it more often because I want to talk to more creators and photographers like you, and whatever you're comfortable with, it's always better to go with that language.
I know like a little bit of Hindi, so I'll try to mix some Hindi whenever possible.
We can see whatever is comfortable with you. We'll continue with that. So the idea of this podcast is, like I told you before as well, getting to know you better as a creator, as a photographer. We'll talk about many things like AI, photography, editing, travel, and all those things. So, but people watching you might be who are not familiar with you. If you can just give a bit of introduction about yourself.
So, my name is Ashik Aseem. I'm from Kerala. I started my photography career with travel and photography. I started back in 2019 or end of 2018, and ever since I was traveling full time. I like cold weather, so most of my project locations were north and northeastern side of India, and I'm loving it. That's it.
So it's been like 6 years or so, right?
Yeah,
that you have
almost
been
6
into
years.
photography.
Mm-hmm. And I revisit the people and locations. So I like to capture the same frames in different seasons. Yeah. And I also, one of my hobbies is I give back photo prints to the people I capture.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask, because I saw your bio and you have this thing, I revisit people to give back photo prints. Mm-hmm. So what's the, what motivated, or what's the objective behind this?
So it started back from Spiti Valley. So Spiti Valley is one of my favorite location, very close to my heart, because all my life-changing decisions I made from Spiti Valley. So this too happened from Spiti Valley. So I was traveling in Spiti. I took a portrait. I showed it. I usually show the people's photo to them after clicking. So I showed it to the lady. She was happy for a moment, then the smile faded away. So I asked what happened. She said, the photo is really good, but what's the point? I'm not going to see this again. So that made me realize. I told her, "Kyun nahi milega?" I got her address. I sent it back to her. So then I realized I enjoyed the process of printing and sending it back to her. So I realized it's very easy. It costs, comparing to my travel budget, it cost nothing. So I thought I should keep doing it. It was giving me happiness. So purely it was for my happiness only. So ever since I was collecting address, since I was collecting address and sending back the prints. So after COVID, I thought, okay, I'm revisiting the same places. So why not go to the people and, give it to their hands.
The physical prints.
Yeah, physical prints. Why not give it to them personally so I can, see the smile. Mm-hmm. So ever since after COVID, I started revisiting the people and give back the prints. Sometimes it's really difficult to track back to the people, but it's a fun process. So far I have delivered around 600 photo prints, 600 peoples, and this time now I'm traveling from Kerala to Ladakh. I'm doing an overlanding
How do you
trip.
keep a track of, let's suppose you have shot 100 people during this trip that you're planning now. So how do you keep a track of people? It's like you collect address at the time of clicking portraits.
I used to collect address, but not anymore.
Oh.
So let me put it into simple words. I was there when it was shot, so I know where they live.
Right. I usually.
And if I'm taking 100 photos, it's not like it's not like 100 clicks at a day. It happens like I get one click in 1 or 2 days. So there is a story behind every photo. It's not a random click. So I know the people, I know the exact location I shot that. Sometimes what happens is the people move around, especially places like Spiti, the kids. I shoot a lot of kids photos. So they go to relatives' houses for studying or whatever reason. So maybe that's when I clicked. So when I revisit them, they are in their own house and that's a different village. And in places like Spiti Valley, it's everyone knows everyone. So I just have to show the photos to someone and track back to them. It's a fun process.
Any special instance or story that you remember when you gave a photo, or so when you recall this, is there any specific incident that comes to your mind when you handed over a photo to someone and the response was really overwhelming? Any particular instance?
Nothing particular, because every delivery was so special and happiness. So I'm not getting any particular incident into my mind. So So in 2021, I revisited the lady who planted this idea in my mind. So I sent her via post, but Indian post is not that reliable. So I was not sure if it's delivered or not. So I thought, okay, I will revisit her and give this back to her. So when I went there, she did not got the print.
Oh, as in the one you sent through India Post, she didn't get.
So she was in shock that I made it to her. Like I gave her the print. She was so happy. She offered me food. It was a fun day. Yeah.
So you're more into travel photography, right? It started like that. So a lot of people watching or hearing this podcast, they might be just getting started with it or might be planning. So as a travel photographer, like you meet these people, you photograph them. How easy or difficult is it to what's your process of approaching people to click their portrait, if to put in simple words?
So nowadays I'm really concerned about consent. So I'll tell you how it started with me about being concerned about consent. So I was starting out, my first trip was to Rajasthan. So it was in 2018 December and I was traveling in Rajasthan. So I used to click a lot of, I run into people, I ask for a photo, I click and I continue my journey. So there was this old lady who is selling puppet. So she was like, Putter, puppet. She was very old. So she had a lot of, wrinkles and patterns in her face. So she expected I will buy a puppet from her if she let me take a photo, but I didn't. I still, regret that day. So when I look at that photo, like I was back from the trip, and when I looked at the photo, I could see that lack of consent in her expression. Like she didn't like the photo, but she did it for the sales, and I didn't do it. So
she was expecting.
Yeah. So at that time, like, I still regret the day. If I could relive the day, I would.
It's good that you're actually talking about it. You're accepting, because normally what I see is people are only talking like the good things we have done, and it's good that you're talking about it. And I think a creator should openly be accepting these things. And I think there are a few turning points as a creator that we learn. And talking about this incident that you mentioned, so normally, let's suppose if I am new to travel photography, I'm traveling to a new location, let's suppose Spiti or Ladakh, and I want to capture people. There's a fear that maybe if I try to click someone's photo, or if I ask them, I assume that they might say no, or they won't agree to it. So what has been your learning, or maybe few tips that you want to give to me as a beginner?
After this incident, my perspective changed. I stopped approaching people for portraits. So now my process is I mostly travel into remote locations. And instead of hotels or homestays, I prefer staying in local houses who don't generally do it as a business. And I travel alone, so it's easy for people to accommodate me. It's just +1. I eat anything, like dal chawal would do. So it's easy for people to accommodate me. So I live in a lot of local houses. I befriend them. Especially capturing children, it's very challenging. It's challenging and easy in a way, because you can't make a bad photo of a kid. Like, they are so cute. Whatever you click, you will get great photos, but you need to win their heart first. So that process, it takes some time. So I'm very good with kids. So initially I befriend them. That takes some time. So back in Kashmir, there was a village in Pahalgam. So I wanted to take some kids' portrait from there. So I visited the village like 2 or 3 times. And I was, the kids are acclimatized. I don't know if that's the right word, acclimatized to the tourists, because there are a lot of tourists always. So they were asking me chocolates. So what I did is I bought like a box of chocolate and I distributed. I did that for like 2-3 days. Then the next day I was front of everyone. So it was easy for me to capture. Like, I have the consent, like all the parents knew me. So that's how I took photos in Kashmir. Coming back to the previous story I'm talking about. So I befriend the people. So by the time I click their photo, I'm like more like a family.
Familiar to people.
Familiar to people.
It's not just straight
or
running
part
into
of
their
the
face.
family.
Not just running free like into the face and just clicking a photo.
So I usually click photos.
Do you think that makes a difference of just running to someone, asking them for a portrait?
Yeah.
Versus?
It's make a huge difference to me, because now all the portraits I have a story behind the photo, and I know the people. You know, when I look at a photo of a kid, I know the kid, right? I know the family. I know.
So it's like
sometimes I wonder what she's doing.
Memory so it's more of like you as a creator reliving those moments, rather than just aiming for portraits. And so for you, it might be like clicking 1 or 2 good portraits in a day versus 10-15 portraits by just going out and capturing people, right? So that is one maybe learning for people. The travel photography is not just going out and clicking portraits. It's also about gelling with the people. So what if I'm introvert? Were you also introvert? Or
I'm the biggest introvert I have ever seen.
But traveling changed things for you, right?
Yeah, I don't know, changed is the right word, but I find it easy to blend in with people I don't know. Especially when I'm alone. I have no other option but to, talk to people for any help I need.
No, that's because your past 6 years has been like a journey as a travel photographer. And this is one thing that I wanted to ask you. If I go to your Instagram, you're doing really well on Reels as well, on video, this video format. What was the time when you realized that let's try video as well? Was it because of Reels, or was it because you thought you wanted to do it?
The first reel I have posted, I think the same day Instagram released the feature.
When the TikTok
So I
app
jumped
got
in.
banned
Yeah,
and this came in.
I jumped in on the very first day.
Nice.
I think.
Same with me. A lot of people tried, but eventually people stopped. But it's glad you're doing good with it. So you started on the very first day, right?
Yeah.
What was your initial thought as a creator? Because at that time,
So
at the
I was
beginning
getting
phase,
some criticism from my close friends. That time people were skeptical about TikToks.
That's why what I was asking you is because
so my friends was making fun of me, like, you started TikToking now, you're a TikToker.
Because initial days, I remember a lot of photographers who were into this for many years had this perception. Even I in the beginning was not sure that a photographer getting into Reels is not the right approach. He should not do, he or she, and you click photos, why are you making videos now? But eventually, I think a lot of people eventually got to know what Reels is, what video is. It's more about storytelling and things like that. So you started on the very first day, and now I think it's been almost more than 2 years now. What's your perspective on photography
Not
versus...
2 years, I think it's been 4 years. Reels started during the COVID time.
It started maybe because after COVID, those 2 years just passed away like that. So for me, it's like, let's suppose 4 years. So now as someone you're traveling to, so you're traveling now to Ladakh, right? As a creator, you have options to make videos, to make photos. How do you go about it? Choosing between photos and videos, or does it come naturally by looking? Like, what's your process? Or do you decide beforehand? Or do you plan things beforehand?
Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes I plan for specific content. So even if we agree or not, I think the short video is the future. Exactly. And it's good for business. So by the end of the day, we are doing this full time. So we should get paid by this in order to keep doing this. Right? I'm doing this full time. So all the brands nowadays approaching for us, they want video, not photos. Like one collaboration out of 20 is for photos. All the baki 19 is for video collaboration.
Exactly.
So that's the best way I get paid. So that's why I saw the scope of business in Reels. So I started doing it. I didn't think about this when I started. When I started, I had some good drone shots, some good videos. I thought, okay, this is a new feature, I'll use it. I never thought about the business side. So yeah, it's doing really good in terms of business. If there was no reel, I wouldn't be sitting here, to be honest.
That's a very good point, because normally in my workshops or when I'm talking, I talk
No, sorry to interrupt. Let me add one more point. So in my heart, I like to do photography. So even with my reels, I'm trying to sell or showcase my photography. So right now, the reach for photos are really low.
Right.
So whatever way I can get audience, I'm using that to drive the audience into my photography. So with most of my reels, I'm telling people, hey, I'm a photographer and I took this photo.
Yeah, because even when I look at your reels, I was talking to you about this before the podcast as well, that over the years since the reel has come, a lot of people, a lot of photographers have eventually, they have this perception that if you want to do reels, you have to do it without having the element of photography. But I like people like you. That's why we are having this conversation. I invited you because you have that core of photography still in your reels and in your on your social media. So you are still having that element of photography, but you're showcasing that through a reel so that it reaches out to more people. Because let's accept, as an artist, we like to be we want people to appreciate the art. And if it's not happening with the still post, better be it through reels, right? Eventually your art is reaching out to people. So my question that I was trying to ask you, the point that I was putting is, a lot of people, I'm not sure why we don't talk about the business side of this thing, because if you're doing it full time, you have to pay your bills, you have to travel, you have to buy gears, and you have to obviously buy things that you like. And for that, you need collaborations, you want to work with brands. So you also are currently working with brands. I'm also currently working with brands. We have a fair bit of experience. So how important do you think as a creator or as an artist is to have this element? Like many people see this as, यार ये पैसा दे के ये किया या ये बिक गया, वो अभी it's still better, but still there is this element that why are you doing a paid advertisement for a particular brand? How do you look at this thing of, as a creator working with a brand, do you give a balance? Do you have your own terms, or how do you work with it?
So there are two ways I can work on this. I can go do some normal job. I can save for some time, then take a break and do photography. Then again, I can, once my money is done, I can do the same thing again. So I can repeat this process. So with this, I'll be living a terrible life. I'll be only living my favorite life only for a few months or something. So that's one thing. So in this thing, we are not getting any collaboration. Let's say I'm not doing any collaboration, then this is the only possible way I can do. So by working with brands, I'm getting paid on the go. So I can keep doing what I do, and people can enjoy the content, right? So they can, let's say there are few people who love my content. They personally message me, I watch your reels every day. It gives me peace. So for those people, I like to create every day. I like to be on road every day. So if collaboration is the only possible way I can do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, because it's very well put. I think this is the easiest way that someone can talk about it is either you earn your bread and butter for something else and then create what you like, or
I think,
do it full time.
sorry to interrupt you again. Nowadays, good audience, they also know this. We should get paid. We should do some collaboration in order to, provide them with.
But I think that change is coming because earlier the ratio was 10% creators, 90% audience. Now it's the reverse. Now 90% are creators, 10% is audience. So people appreciate even if you are working with a brand.
Or we can say 90% creators and 100% audience. Creators are
also consuming, and exactly, yeah, I think that's the right way. So that's one way, because people now appreciate, and also people who are connected with you over the months, because as a creator there's another thing that I see, that people making content for 3 months, photos or videos, and then realizing that हमें likes नहीं आ रहे, हमें followers नहीं आ रहे. People need to realize that it's not a 3-month thing that you can connect with people, because if I want to connect with you, at least I might be viewing your content for almost 6 months, and then I feel attached to a particular person that I'm following. And that is where, even if I'm doing a paid collaboration and if it's well produced, well made, not too salesy, I'll feel happy about it. And I might get influenced because there's a new product in the market that I'm not aware of, and maybe I'm looking for let's suppose an action camera, and I see it in your video. So I might get introduced to that thing, and obviously I like your content, so I'll be influenced that ठीक है, अगर Ashik is talking about it, then it might be good. So do you think responsibility also is
responsibility is there. So I rarely say this is the best. So I usually, with cameras, I mostly work with smartphone and action camera brands. So what I usually say is, let me show you what I can do with this. I avoid saying this is the best, or only this can do. I avoid saying that unless that's true. So that there is responsibility, and I try to follow it the best way possible.
Yeah, I think that's and that's I think the way forward, because there was a phase when the promotions were in a way that you have to talk about this is the best, and now yesterday I was reading an article or somewhere that people right now are assuming that AI is the future, but someone had this article saying that storytelling is actually the future, because storytelling is something that AI might not be able to replace. We'll talk about AI going forward, but
I have very less knowledge about AI.
But okay,
I did not follow up the new changes.
What's your perception about AI? Do you follow AI? Have you tried any AI tool as of now?
I have tried a few tools, and I think it's incredible. It has huge potential. So I don't think AI will replace us. It's just my thinking. I could be wrong, but I think AI will help us to ease the process of creating better content. So more people can come into this field because it's getting easier. So if you look at the history, like clicking a photo was so difficult. You have to buy a camera, then film. You have to know the technical details to expose a photo properly. Now it's so easy. So it made the market better. Now everyone is a photographer, but the market is better. Like people are getting paid, right? So back then, let's say only 0.5% is photographer. Comparing to that, there are a lot of photographers now, but people are the market is comparatively bigger. It got bigger. So even if more creators are coming into the field, it will only make the market bigger. So which will bring us better opportunities, I guess. I don't think AI will replace us. I think it's going to make it easier for us.
Do you think that a photographer or a creator should be aware of AI?
Whatever I'm saying, if it's nonsense, please cut it out.
No. See, everyone, that's why I like to have conversation, because everyone has their own perception. Maybe I'm having my own perception, but you have a different thought, and that might also change my perception, because it's always when you read about it or talk to people about how the perception that they have. So do you think AI... what I believe is, I'll talk about that as a photographer or as a creator, you should be aware and well equipped about AI, because it's obviously not, it won't replace you, but it can save your time. For example, chat gpt, I'm sure you have heard about chat gpt. So just a basic example, let's suppose I want to draft an email to a brand. There's one way that now I have experience, I know how to draft, but if I'm a beginner, I'll just go to chat gpt and give a command that give me an email draft to approach a brand for a collaboration, and give 2-3 more hints. It will give me a complete mail draft. I can make few changes here and there. That would save me a lot of like 10-15 minutes. As a photographer, I was actually working on a script. Let's suppose I'm visiting Ladakh for the first time. I'll write, tell me 10 hidden or unknown places in Ladakh to photograph. I'll have a list of 10 places. Either I research that manually and put in hour and a half or 2 hours, but within a few minutes, I can have that in the chat GPT, and then I can manually go and search for that locations. So I think using AI to your benefit to save time and effort is something that
we should do. That's
people
something
should
we
be
should.
aware. And it's not just because it won't replace, I don't think, maybe in the coming few years.
Even if we oppose or support, it's coming. It'll be there.
Exactly, and
So
that's the best way.
The idea is to better live with it.
Yeah, because how we talk about film camera, then digital camera, then mobile camera. So even if you have zero knowledge about aperture, shutter speed, ISO, white balance, you can have your phone, pick it up, click a photo, and if the composition is good, it could be a good photo. So it's no more about technical knowledge, it's more about how you see your frame and you capture it, because everything is happening at the back of the camera. So AI could be similar thing. I think a lot of cameras now are coming with AI features. Editing softwares, Lightroom and Photoshop, they have AI updates. And if all these big brands and companies are doing it, and it's obviously coming. Now it's on us as creators and photographers to adapt those things.
It's obviously making our life easier, to be honest.
I think the same thing that happened with reel and photos. The photos got overshadowed by reels, and eventually we as photographers had to jump onto reels, because that's the only way forward. Right, so that's what AI might do. Right, so anyway, let's move out of AI. As a travel photographer, how much importance does photo editing or post processing has for you as a creator, as an artist?
I think it's in my perspective, I think it's equally important as making a good frame. So clicking a photo is only 50%. That's what I believe. So rest of the beauty we have to bring in by editing. A lot of people might disagree, especially the beginners. So
I think beginners won't disagree. Yeah, because there's this perception. That's why I'm asking you this question. Because let's specifically talk about travel photography. You're doing portraits, you're doing landscape, nature. And I know there's this thing, one term that's known as color grading. That's a different thing. We'll not go into that. But what's your basic approach to post-processing? Let's suppose you come from a trip, you have set of photos with you. What's your approach with post-processing? Like, how do you try?
So cameras, it never capture as as real as we see. So some people think raw photo is the real photo, but it's not. So camera has its limitations, so it's not capturing the real colors or photo. So I think it's in my hand to edit and make the photo look close to what I have seen in the scene. Plus I can enhance some things and make it better. Now everyone is a photographer, so people who go to the same location, like if they frame it similarly, they can get kind of a similar shot. So editing is one of the way I can make it unique and make it more personalized. I think that's the right word.
Right. I think this is a good approach, saying that let's suppose you're visiting a place where maybe 10 people are taking the same frame. Editing is one approach where you can make your photo look a bit different. Also wanted to know your perception about manipulation. Like I usually respect digital art. Manipulation, let's suppose replacing the sky or manipulating an image. Do you usually do that, or what's your perception?
I do that sometimes. And I think we should mention whatever changes we are making, we should mention. I have done this mistake. Like when I started out, I did some manipulation, and when I got some DMs, I claimed no, it's real. But that was a huge mistake. We shouldn't do it. So we go to certain places just by seeing a reel or a photo. So the people who go there, they should have the same opportunity to click a similar photo if all the lighting and weather conditions are similar. They should have the opportunity to capture what we captured. So if we manipulate something and if we keep it from people, they might go there with the expectation of capturing our photo, but they have no chance of capturing it, right? So exactly. I think we should mention so they know what to expect and how we got it. So nowadays, whenever I make a manipulation or if I add or remove something from a photo, I mention it in the description, and I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, that's exactly because the first podcast we did, we talked about this manipulation, and this was the exact thing that we talked because. Reels is something that just blew away, and a lot of people watch reels and go, this Vada Pav girl in Delhi went viral. A lot of places are going viral just by reels. Mm-hmm. So people expect that if it's happening in this reel, we might also experience the same thing. So I think putting that note, surely it does help. So manipulation, do you what's your approach with manipulation? Is it like a more creative thinking, let's suppose?
So most of the photos I take, it goes into a fine art category. So I'm not shooting for any newspaper, or my photos don't represent the news, right? So I think those kind of photos called editorial photos. In that photo, you can't make any changes except some exposure or color minor adjustment. So I'm not clicking for any news article. So the photos I'm taking, it's mostly fine art. The sole purpose of the photo is to give that sense of feeling or that happiness to the audience. So I do whatever necessary to make the frame beautiful. I may remove some stones or sticks, plastic, trash from here and there to make it beautiful. And yeah, I think...
the reason I'm asking is because I personally also want to normalize this thing, because a lot of people have this, and it's fine, everyone has their own view, there's nothing right and wrong, but even if we are removing, let's suppose, stone, plastic, it's just to beautify the scene. Mm-hmm. It's not that we are cheating or we are doing anything wrong. It's just,
let's say if I'm manipulating not manipulating, if I'm cleaning a photo from Taj Mahal, I won't clean an existing structure. Yeah. What I'm saying is I'll heal the trashes.
Yes.
Which can be manually...
You're not modifying the originality of what's there, the main object, but you're just, let's say you're beautifying it rather than modifying it, right?
So I won't heal the part of Taj. I will heal only the trashes or, the
maybe
unwanted objects.
You got really good sunset shot or a moon shot and there's a person somewhere in the frame. Mm-hmm. Even if you're removing that, I just want people to know that it's fine. It's not, and I think we should respect even if it's happening, and as long as it's mentioned, it's a fine art, it's a digital art, and that is also an art form which requires creativity, which takes time and effort. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. Let's talk a bit about gears, because we have touched about all creatives and all those things. Which is your favorite one go-to lens that you can take with you in every trip? Just one lens if you have to pick.
Just one lens. 35-150, Tamron 35-150.
35-150.
Yeah, it covers all the ranges.
That's one a bit unique range. So 35, so you'll capture 35 wide and it goes to like 150.
Yeah, 150. Nice. And it's a f2 to 2.8 lens and it produces decent quality image. So
I think at 150, if you're getting f2.8, then it's a good thing.
If I have to travel with just one lens, that would be my go-to lens.
Okay, so it's interestingly, like you talked about Tamron. Mm-hmm. So Sigma Tamron third-party lenses. Again, there's this few people have a perception that no, I just want to go with branded lens, like first party, Canon, Nikon, Sony. rather than third-party lenses? You might have used you're using Sony, right?
I'm using Sony cameras, but I don't have a single lens from Sony.
Okay.
It's because when I started out, I couldn't afford Sony lenses.
That's with everyone. That's with everyone, right?
That's why I got some Tamron lenses. Back then, that was the only lens I could afford. My first Tamron lens was a 28-75 f2.8. That was the most affordable lens for me at that time. And it's working perfectly fine, producing good quality photos.
That's one of the most selling Tamron lens, because I talked to Tamron people. This lens, the lens that you mentioned, it instantly boosted their sales. And that's when Sony users started. So how has do you think third-party lenses, because there's this perception that third-party lenses are not sharp, not good.
The sharpness difference is very minor. So if you put two photos side by side, then only you can notice the difference, and whatever sharpness you're losing, you can easily bring back by post-processing. So the people who play with Lightroom or Photoshop know this technique. So I think it's not a big difference. But the production quality of a lens, like a construction quality of a lens, it's different. With Tamron lenses, I had this issue of dust going inside, especially in dusty condition. It's a barrel expanding lens. So whenever I expand and zoom in, zoom out, the lens will suck air in, and it will bring some dust inside. So that is a problem I found with Tamron lenses.
I think that's usually with any lens, even if we go with
I think it's the issue with barrel expanding lenses.
So if you go into weather sealed and dust sealed and all those lenses, obviously you pay more for that. And that's where the price difference comes into play, and that might be because you're traveling to extreme locations. So I think that is one key element. Also, one thing that I noticed, that the lenses that you mentioned both are zoom lenses. So as a travel photographer, do you think zoom lens helps you?
It's more convenient for me. So if I have a 28-75, I have all that range in my hand ready to capture, right? So if I'm capturing with a prime lens in some moments it happens quickly in travel, so we won't get the chance to change the lens. So instead of having no photo, I prefer to have some photo. So all the lenses I have, most of the lenses I have is zoom lenses. I think I have only two prime lenses. 158mm. It's a vintage lens. This Helios.
I have that lens as well.
Yeah, 58mm f2.
Amazing lens.
It's a good lens.
58mm.
58mm f2. So I have that lens.
Do you use that often?
I didn't use it for the past few years, but it's a great lens. I still travel with it, but I don't use it.
Amazing lens.
And I have a 12mm from Lowa, the Lowa 12mm zero distortion lens. I have that too. So these are the only two prime lenses I have.
Nowadays, you're also shooting with smartphone, right? Your experience, because in the past 2-3 years, smartphones have drastically improved in terms of quality, in terms of image that you get. How do you see mobile photography? Maybe a lot of people talk about future of photography, or can be good travel images with smartphone. What's your perspective?
Yeah, nowadays the tech came so far. Even the budget smartphones are capable of creating great photos, the raw images, great photos. So I think and it's one of the easiest tool accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
Plus it's the biggest market. As any photography based creator, smartphones pays really good for collaborations.
Exactly. Because the reason I'm asking is a lot of people, maybe I'm interested in photography, but I'll say when I'll get this particular camera or a real camera, then only I'll be able to click good photos. But I think smartphones nowadays are also very advanced, and we can use that too, because I think smartphone could be one approach that you learn photography using a smartphone, the composition, the perspective, the lighting, and eventually you can upgrade to a digital camera, right? Because there shouldn't be this stopping point that once I'll have a camera, then only I can capture photos.
Phone photography made me a better photographer, because it challenged me. I started with some budget smartphone which had no 2x or 3x lenses, so I was stuck with 1x all the time. So 1x or 0.6. So if we crop in, it compromised the image quality. the only way to get the best result possible was to get it done in while framing. So it challenged me to frame properly. So my photography career started with a smartphone brand. So their only demand was having the shot on watermark at the bottom. So if I'm cropping later in post, that will change position. I didn't want that to happen. I wanted that watermark in the same place in every photo. So I was very cautious while framing the photo. I know I can't change this in post. So I was paying a lot of attention while framing. So that made me a better photographer, I believe.
Great point, because that is one way to look at it, because if you're shooting with smartphone, you cannot zoom in, zoom out. You can, but the quality
nowadays you can.
If it has optical zoom, then obviously. But let's talk about phone worth 20,000-25,000. You're stuck with 1x max to max ultra wide angle, but that is like the approach that street photographers used to take, shooting at just 35 mm or just 24 mm, and then eventually getting better at to see things. And I think over the time you get used to, and you can just anticipate that this would be the angle of you. And there's this technique in street photography, shooting through the hip. So it's like just placing the camera without looking and just capturing, because over the years you get so experienced that you know that if I keep my camera at this angle, I'll be capturing this particular scene. So that's how smartphone can help you get better at photography. So let's talk about travel photography.
Mm-hmm.
You travel, like most of you travel solo, and you travel to create content.
Mm-hmm.
Let's suppose I'm a college student. How can I fund my trip? Because this is also a concern that I like clicking photos. I want to travel to a location, but I assume that it would cost me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I travel in budget to create content?
My first trip was the most budget trip I have done. So I'll tell you how I did that. So I told you it was to Rajasthan. Yeah. It was a 2 weeks trip. Okay. So I traveled in train, sleeper ticket. That was the best cheapest. And in Rajasthan, I find it very expensive to travel from one location. Like even the distance is like 1 or 2 kilometers. The rickshawalas, especially, I don't speak Hindi. They know I'm an outsider. So they ask for like 500 or 1,000 rupees. And
auto
rickshaws. And what I do is, instead of taking rickshaws, I end up walking all the distance. So when I reach a city, I walk to all the best destinations, like nearby destinations. I didn't cover everything, but I covered whatever nearby. So I covered everything by walking. Then for breakfast, I was having this 10 rupees, 15 rupees poha. Then again for lunch, I had this kachori. It's a very unhealthy thing to do on a daily basis, but back then that was the only option I had.
Was this kadhi kachori or because in Rajasthan?
Did I say Raj kachori?
No, kachori.
Kachori, like the dal kachori, some curries. Some people put sweet
chutney.
Have
you been to? Anyways, I'll talk about Pushkar Camel Fair. Have you?
No, not the camel. I've been to Pushkar, not for the camel fair.
Okay. Let's continue with the budget thing.
Okay. So I used to eat poha and kachori, raat mein chapati and dal. So this was the budget food. So instead of taking a room for sleeping, what I do is I take a sleeper bus, and overnight I travel to the next city. So I cover the city in daytime. I travel to the next city in a sleeper bus, which costed me around 450 to 500 rupees per bus. So I saved on room price. So after reaching a place, back in 2018, there were hostels available for 100 and 150 rupees. So I take a hostel. I put my inexpensive luggages like clothing and inside the locker, or inside the bed or somewhere. I use the washroom. I refresh. Then I go for walking. By evening, I take my luggage, again sleep on the bus on the way to the next destination. So this is how I covered Udaipur, Jaipur, and Jaisalmer, Bikaner, these places in that 2 weeks. On the 12th day, I reached back home by train. Yeah, my budget was, I spent around 8,000 rupees for that 12 days. Wow.
Yeah, I think because as a travel photographer, content creator, I just wanted to know your perspective on this thing, because eventually you start earning, then you can spend. But initially, a lot of college going students, and they want to know a way around how to plan the trip. Coming to talking about this traveling and creating content, the question that I asked you previously as well. Now, let's suppose as a creator, a lot of queries that I usually get is, I want to start vlogging or making videos or create cinematic videos. Should I buy an action camera, iPhone or smartphone, or a camera? Do you get such queries, and what's your...
All the time.
So how do you see this thing? Like,
so when someone asks me for a camera recommendation, I ask them their requirement. So I'll talk about what's best currently in the market. So nowadays most people, they want to start vlogging. They need some video camera for food vlogging or daily vlogging. So the gadget I'm recommending nowadays is the DJI Pocket 3.
best.
So it's the best. Even for whatever video you need to make, that's the best. You can
The depth of field that you get, the natural blur effect, it's like
and
something
also
that
the quality 10-bit video.
Exactly.
So if people can't have they don't want to buy a separate camera or they want to keep it simple, I suggest an iPhone, best for videos.
Yes, same.
So I think Android phones make better photos. Android is a big category, but like flagships of Android make better photos, but iPhone make better videos.
Agree. Even if I say this all the time, like let's suppose even if you have the best Android phone, and even if you're using iPhone 13 or 14, which is like 50,000-60,000 rupees, still the iPhone would give you ideally better video.
Yeah.
Because that's how what's good, it's good. For photos, obviously, Android gives you more options, pro mode, more optical zoom, and all those options. So,
and I have a method of finding the right camera for ourselves. So when I purchased my first camera, that was not my first camera. Okay, it's difficult to understand, but let me explain. I called it a test camera. So I don't know what's in the market. I have no friends who's in the field. Like I had like one friend, but I don't know a godfather who I can ask. Back then I messaged a lot of creators. No one is responding to my messages. So what I did is I bought a first camera and I called it my test camera. What I did is I went to OLX. I got the cheapest camera possible. Like I got the cheapest camera which had manual settings. So I got a camera. It was a point and shoot camera, but it had manual settings. I got it for 8,000 rupees. I used it for few months, and then I understood what I want. I got some ideas.
You were really smart at the beginning. As for what you're talking, because normally that's not the way how people start. It's like we'll finance it, we'll get it on down payment, and we just want
back
this,
then it was things were really difficult for me, so I had to be budget friendly. So I used it for a couple of months. I understood what I really want. Then I sold it for 10,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees profit. Then I got my first camera, which is Sony a6300. So after using that for like 1.5 years, I shifted to a full frame camera, which was a Sony a7 III. It was my friend's camera. He bought it and he was not using it. So he gave it to me for using it. So I used it for around 1.5 years. Then I got my Sony a7R4, which is still, I'm using that still. And I really love high resolution for cameras because of the details it provides. And yeah, so that's how I chose a camera for me.
So that's how you upgraded the cameras.
Buy a test camera, learn what you need, then buy your first camera.
Interesting. And how to go about lenses?
Lenses, I started with 28-75 Tamron. So after buying that, I used it for a couple of months. Then I realized I need something really wide. So I got this Samyang 14mm lens. It was the cheapest wide angle lens available in the market. So I got it and I was really enjoying taking ultra wide angle photos, but I found something
the
I didn't
manual
like.
lens, right?
The manual lens. So I found something I didn't like in the lens, which is the distortion, the huge distortion, which is a result of a cheaper lens. So then I realized, then I studied about the distortion, which then I got to know about the LOA zero distortion lens. Then I got the 12mm LOA. Now I have ultra wide angle, all the way to semi zoom range, like 28-75. Now I need a tele zoom range. Then I got the Tamron 70 to 180 lens. So these three lenses, I used it for like almost 2 years. Then I understood I really need an autofocus on my all my lenses. My 12mm lens was a manual lens. I really love taking ultra wide angle portraits, and it's really tricky. Like with every move, especially children, they move around all the time, so it's really tricky to get their eyes in focus. So I shifted to Sigma 14-24 2.8 lens, which has an autofocus, which so that too came to my kit. Now I'm thinking about buying a 60 to 600 by Sigma.
I've used it.
So that
I used 3 years back in the Pushkar Camel Fair. So the reason I asked you is because I wanted to know your view about this, because when you go to this Pushkar Camel Fair, the thing is, whenever you click a photo, they usually ask for some money, like 10 rupees, 20 rupees. So the first time when I went, I saw that, I observed it. So next time I had this gaddi of 10-20 rupee notes, and maybe for kids, few biscuits and something, because see, there are two approach that you take as a photographer. One is obviously you ask them. Second is candid. So I personally like candid photos. So with 60-600, I was using 500 to 600 range, standing long at a long distance.
You might have saved a lot of $10. It's not about paying, but if
eventually
I
showed them the images.
Okay, but if we pay, the photo we get is a pose.
Exactly, and then that. Yeah, it's like personal choice. If you like post photo, then it's because then you can use. So there are few photographers who have external lights and setup, and for them it works.
So I also like this approach of taking candid photo, approach and show them, then compensate with some money.
Right. Because even if you show them, most of the people, there's a pre-assumption that people might not like, and there are instances people might say that delete it or things like that. But
so was there any incident where you had to delete a photo?
No, see, again, there are few places or spots people who are familiar that they know, because in Delhi there's this old Delhi. They are familiar that there are photographers, people click photos, so they are familiar with it. So even if you're clicking candidates, or if they notice you clicking the photo, they won't say you anything. But the places, the people where they are not familiar with it, they might have this perception, because a lot of question that I asked is, kya aap paper se ho, kya aap media se ho? Because that's the pre-assumption of people, that if you're clicking photo, and especially if there's 70-200 lens, that wide lens, they think that aap media se ho. So then eventually you have to explain them that no, it's, and then that's the reason when if I'm clicking a photo, I usually show them. And if someone is not happy, I'll delete it in front of them, because that's how usually it should be, mutually respectable to each other. So just wanted to know, as a photographer, you said you started way back in 2018. So just wanted to know, how did it all start?
So I was right out of college, and I was in the that age of guilt for taking money from our parents.
So in the college, what with course or
I did a BBA. So I finished BBA, like I just went with the flow. I went to college, I never studied anything. So
this was in Kerala only?
It was in Kerala only. So before starting travel photography, I never traveled anywhere. So I was right out of college. So I was in this guilt of being a consumer of my parents' money, my father's money, because I'm getting older, I'm not making a single penny. So my father used to sell eggs in our local market. So I told my concern to my father, and he said I can join him, help him with this business. So I started selling eggs in the market.
So this is while you were pursuing college or after college?
After my college.
Okay.
So that was a very difficult time. We start selling at 5:30 in the morning, and it goes up to 7 in the evening. And that time my father fell sick, he got a stroke, then I had to take care of my family, so it became my job. So I did that for 5 years. I'm a person who get bored if done something repeatedly. So I had to do that, every day. I'm reliving the same day. So I realized I'm just going to die like this, doing the same thing over and over again. So out of that worry, I worked and saved for 5 years to purchase my first camera, Sony A6300.
So you were saving for 5 years for
to
this
get my
camera.
first camera.
Then after that, what happened?
So after that, the only holiday I had was Sunday afternoon. Even we open on Sunday, we open on all holidays. So Sunday afternoon, I travel to some nearby locations and I post photos on Instagram. Then I got a chance to travel to Spiti Valley with one of my friend. It was like a week trip, and some of the photos I clicked during the trip got clicked on Instagram. I gained around 10,000 followers on Instagram. Back then the K was a huge thing.
10,000 itself was a big thing.
Okay. So that's when I got my first collaboration email. Initially I thought it was a scam. It was from the smartphone brand Xiaomi. So
just after one trip, after your photos like got good reach and all, the smartphone brand reached. Great.
So they asked for the commercial. Initially I thought it's a scam because when I got my first camera, I never even imagined I'm going to live with this. I'm going to make a living out of this. So when I got the collaboration email, my initial thought was it's a scam. Why would anyone pay me for my silly photos? But chalo, what do I have to lose?
Yes.
So I replied for the email. They sent me the phone. Then I believed. Then I think the collaboration was 6 or 8 images. I think it was 8 images. And I gave them 8 photos. I gave them around 12 photos because they won't approve every photo, right? So I gave them around 12 photos. Out of 12, they liked 10. So instead of 8, they took 10 images and they paid me extra. And they asked me, they really loved the content, if I like to work with them long term. And I said yes. They sent me a 1-year contract. So I saw that as it was very small amount of money, but it was enough to support my family and keep myself on the road the way I did my Rajasthan trip. So I thought, okay, I'll take a break for 1 year. Once this is done, I know a job. I can go back to my market. I can sell eggs. I can save and repeat the thing. But I never had to do that. Like contract after contract, I started getting more works. Then I never had to turn back.
Great. I think glad we talked about it because people should know about this journey because obviously there are struggles in lives, and you talked about how brands supporting you or the collaborations that happened, it helped you do this full time and support the family as well. And that is why I think in today's time, it's obviously it's your work that got you brands coming after you. So and I think it's all about practice, right? The more you capture, because you were also not sure that my photos are so good, because initially you don't believe.
I never knew I had this future, to be honest.
It's the same with, I think, a lot of creators, same with me, because when I left my job, it's been now 6 or 7 years, I never assumed that I'll have a studio, we'll be doing this thing, and I think over the time things happen and you don't plan such things, right? You don't plan that you will work with brand and you will do this full time. It just happens. If you're good at something, you're doing it regularly.
Frequently, it will make you better.
Things will come to you. Great. Good to know this side as well. So I think on this note, we can end this podcast. A lovely conversation with you.
Same here.
And maybe we'll see in future. We'll plan more if we have more things to talk about.
Yeah. Sure.
And hopefully your experience was good.
Yeah, definitely. It's my first time doing a podcast.
Yeah.
And it's my first time, sharing screen with someone.
Right.
So whenever I'm making videos, mostly I'm alone. So it's my first time doing a podcast, sitting and talking long time in front of a camera. Great experience. It's, I like to challenge myself. So when you reached out for the podcast, my initial thought was, no, I shouldn't do it. I was challenged. It was a challenge to me. Then I told myself I should take this challenge. It is going to make me better.
Because I want to continue this series and especially talk to photographers and creators, because it's always better to know perspective of different creators. Everyone have their own story, how it started, and a lot to learn from you today, definitely. So thank you for joining in. And that's it. I think let's end this podcast.